Well, I think on the whole, families, this complex adaptive system of the parent and child, the family, are remarkably resilient. And so families might, say, experiment with the sleep training. They've used sleep training with this child. I would not say that's harmful, although we know from the neuroscience that patterns of responsivity over time optimise developmental outcomes. But I'm careful not to frame the use of sleep training as harmful. I don't think that's useful for me to be suggesting to the family. I think that there is, we know from the literature, a link between unsettled behaviour in the first months of life and behavioural and developmental problems at school age. It's just that this link is being interpreted in a way that I would argue is very unhelpful. So it's being said, this is why we've got to use sleep training to get good sleep outcomes, to mitigate against the possibility of impaired cognitive and behavioural outcomes. And firstly, that's confusing association and causation, which is a basic mistake that you'd all appreciate. Happens too often, but it's a pretty serious mistake if you're telling parents, you've got to teach your baby to sleep so that you get best development, because they'll, often I'll use the analogy when I'm talking about this with parents, you would walk over hot coals to protect your child's development. So I think it's a pretty big mistake, and it's the one that's being made at the moment. But I guess I'm concerned that actually the widespread popular application of the first wave behavioural approaches does impact negatively on that small cohort of vulnerable, either biologically vulnerable or psychologically vulnerable families, so that it may actually be the explanation. It may be what's facilitating this link. You have unsettled babies in early life. Everyone comes in really strongly with the first wave behavioural approaches. Doesn't appear to be working. Ramp up the application of the first. This is a recipe for very high levels of parental and child anxiety around sleep. And of course it plays out right throughout the days as well as the nights, as you well appreciate. So that's my serious concern.